Hi everyone, this is Chin-Yee from UCL, and we are here at the UN Oceans Conference in Nice, France. Yes, normally you're used to seeing me at the shipping negotiations, you're seeing me at the climate COPs, but here we are in beautiful Nice, France, and we're here at the UN Conference on Oceans. And you're not going to believe it, but I have right here with me from Jamaica, Minister Kamina Johnson Smith. Minister, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Hey, everyone.
And Minister, you've just come out of plenary.
Yeah.
The plenary is just finished. This is day 2. The plenary just finished. All the high-level statements were made. What was part of your statement?
Well, Jamaica's national statement was very important for us. We spoke about our history of involvement in oceans preservation and conservation. The fact that we were at the forefront of the negotiation of the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, which is also called the Montego Bay Convention, because that's where it was finalized. Absolutely. Right. And we're also the only developing country to host an international organization, and that's the Seabed Authority, the home of the Law of the Sea. So we spoke about our history and the fact that this carries through into today, Jamaica being a member of the Ocean Leaders Panel. And we were in fact one of the 14 founding members, Prime Minister Holness was, and we are the only Caribbean sit on the panel. So we bring a particular perspective, and we're committed to all the aspects of the Ocean Leaders Panel transformation agenda, which deals with ocean health, ocean wealth, ocean justice, ocean equity. And it's really a part of who we are as a small state. That's a flag state, a coastal state, a port state, and a provider of seafarers. We just see ourselves at the heart of everything that's maritime, that's marine, and therefore this Oceans Conference is big for us.
Yeah,
important.
And speaking of big, you brought up the Convention on the Law of the Sea.
Yes.
Let's talk about BBNJ.
Yes.
So BBNJ, Jamaica ratified this agreement yesterday.
Yes.
So what is this agreement, and what were Jamaica's points around ratification?
Very, very, again, important to us, because the BBNJ treaty is actually an implementing treaty under the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. So it is the convention that deals with marine biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction. Yes. BBNJ, beyond, right?
Yes.
So biodiversity beyond. And
I've been wondering that all week.
It is. It's therefore for us, given that it's part of the Law of the Sea, and Jamaica sees itself as a home of the Law of the Sea, it was very important for us to be a part of this. The UN system needs 60 countries to ratify in order for the treaty to come into effect. Yeah. So we were part of the press to get to 50. We are at 110 signatures, I understand, and 50 ratifications. So we're not quite there,
10
but
more to
it's
go.
Within reach, exactly. But it is important, the heart of conservation, the heart of, if the ocean is not being taken care of, if it's not be able to regenerate its resources, if it's not able to give people fish and their livelihoods, allow for oceans to thrive and survive, if we're not dealing with ocean warming, it is a sequestering, it is the largest sequester of carbon in the globe. If we're not taking care of our oceans, nothing else will matter.
We are a blue planet.
We're a blue planet.
We're a blue planet, and that's so important, especially for a country like Jamaica, but actually for every one of us. We are all 100% dependent on our oceans, not least for shipping, which 85% to 90% of all goods that you are using have been come to you via ship. And so another thing you've been doing, and you won't believe, it's only the end of day 2, and you've accomplished so much, because you've also gone on to this Oceans platform. There were 3 out of 10, and you co-chaired it with Iceland.
Absolutely. Jamaica and Iceland chaired, Minister of Environment from Iceland and myself, we co-chaired the 3rd Ocean panel, the 3 of 10. And they're all focusing on areas of where action is absolutely required. Our focus was on mobilization of finance, which is absolutely critical. I mean, when we're speaking about how important the ocean is to practically everything. It's economically important, it's socially important, it's culturally important, and it's the least funded SDG. It has, and it's one of the wealthiest SDGs when you think about it. So what we we joined a panel of experts from insurance, which is a very good thing, and I can say a little more about why, from the UN system, UN Capital Development Fund, the Green Climate Fund, and several different agencies from different perspectives to talk about what we need to do to mobilize finance. And this is from a practical perspective, what types of mechanisms, etc., what has worked and what has not worked, and how do we fix it. One of the very important things that came out of that discussion was reference to the fact that new resources have been pledged to the oceans. $8 billion in new resources were pledged in Monaco on the weekend at the Blue Economy and Finance Conference. Now, getting that information to small island developing states and in fact to developing countries will be important. But more important will be the frameworks that they develop. And one of the things or one of the points which I made is that it'll be very important that these bodies that are offering these new monies, and they are philanthropic organizations, private sector, and multilateral organizations, they need to think about the users of these funds. If a fund requires all of 75% of its money to be used for consultancies to tell you how to apply for the fund, it is a failing fund. It is not a useful fund, and should not be celebrated. So what's important is for them to think about the fact that there is not only a policy gap and a financing gap to implement SDG 14, but we also have an implementation gap and a capacity gap. Small countries that need the most, ironically or sadly, also usually lack the resources to be able to access them. So simplifying access, making it affordable, making the funds themselves affordable if they are not grant funds, very important for the utility and implementation of SDG 14.
I mean, this is the thing on all my work, for example, with the Global South countries that they've been saying ever since the Green Climate Fund,
but
is
if you
that
don't keep saying it,
you gotta say it. You gotta
yes,
say it,
yes.
because there's just so much red tape.
Yeah. I must say that the GCF, Mafalda Duarte, the new ED, she does seem to have a great commitment to trying to fix things in a way that that makes sense for developing countries, if I speak of it as inelegantly as that. But she was on the panel as well. I think there is an improved understanding of the difficulties, and a greater commitment to try to fix.
Okay.
But money, I think organizations that manage finances have a different perspective on many things.
But I mean, the politics around financing.
Exactly. But I will say that at this conference, both in the panel and otherwise, I have been hearing more of the right conversations, more conversations that make sense. Okay. And a greater willingness of some of the international organizations to actually listen.
Good.
And I think partly because the conversation on the advocacy side is also changing. We've been part of the SDG and Friends of SDG and financing within the UN system, etc. And some time back, we recognize that if you're not speaking the language of finance, no matter how deeply you feel about an issue, no matter how right it is difficult to make progress. So we have been adjusting our conversation to speak about crowding in of private sector finance, about resilience, about knowing about the profitability or at least the stability of issues, of instruments, and predictability in order to get them to feel more comfortable. And I think that conversation has spread, and I feel very cautiously optimistic about where we are in this conference.
Okay, very good. I mean, it's all about politics here when you've got countries together. And speaking of that, I hear a rumor that Jamaica is putting a bid in to be at IMO Council later this year.
Yes, we're seeking re-election, please. We are there. So we are seeking re-election, but Jamaica has been a really active member of the council. We're in category C, and that's where we're seeking to be
category
re-elected.
C is what?
It is a wider category of the council, which seeks to add geographical representation to the council.
Yes, okay.
But we are a flag state, a coastal state, a port state, and a seafarer jurisdiction. So there's every reason why we should be there. We're a small island developing state, so we bring a particular perspective, but we also have been at the heart of promoting regulations and promulgation of regulations for, clean shipping and green shipping and ballast, how you treat with ballast water and other issues related to the shipping world that maybe your visitors, your viewers might not be so interested in the details of, or may they?
They should be. They,
They
should,
should
be.
be.
We're going to look into it.
But essentially, we are there to do the work of ensuring that the maritime industry, maritime sectors, have all perspectives on board, and that there's always a moderate, very principled and informed position that's representative not only of small island developing states, but of developing countries generally, and understanding the value and importance of the maritime sector. So
excellent. And very last quick question on any of the other outcomes that you're expecting
plastic
here.
pollution.
Plastic pollution.
We are not expecting an outcome here, but it has been an important part of our discussions. I think I've said the word important too many times.
It's all very important.
It is. But I say if everything is a priority, then nothing is. And that's not the case for this conference. It's just that there are many important issues that confront us in respect of in respect of our oceans.
Absolutely.
Plastic pollution. Jamaica believes that we do need a legally binding treaty to address plastic pollution. We believe it needs to be ambitious. We believe that the special circumstances of SIDS need to be reflected and mainstreamed throughout the document. We believe it needs to deal with the full life cycle of plastics, because we don't necessarily manufacture, but we're a net consumer. They wash up on our shores. There are islands of plastic. Some countries have literally in their archipelago, they have islands of plastic and they don't produce. So we need to deal with production. We need to deal with recycling. We need to deal with disposal, and we need to deal with legacy plastics as well. Negotiations have been hard, and they in fact broke down the last time ministers sat in Korea to discuss. And in this conference, in the margins of this conference, there have been groupings of ministers and technical experts who have been trying to work through some of the most knotty issues to see whether they can ensure that by the time the next meeting takes place later this year, that we will have a breakthrough. And we're hopeful of that. And we've been a part of that here.
The number of things you've said to us in the past 10 minutes.
Did I forget about the World Island Forum?
We did. But it's fine. Yes, and there's so much more, and maybe we'll do this again another day, because this is only day 2. There are still 3 days left. But Minister Kamina Johnson Smith, thank you so much for being on this episode, and it's been wonderful to talk to you, to learn all of the hard work that you and Jamaica and your whole team is doing here. And I will follow you.
Thank you. I will follow you too.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I hope you'll follow me at Kamina J. Smith on all the
handles. Good at that. Yeah, excellent. Very good. Thank you very much again.
No, it's been my pleasure.
Brilliant. Thank you.